Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. I'm getting ready for a hiking trip in the near future here, and I was going through some of my gear, and I've never done a video on my folding knives, and I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the history of some of these knives and why I carry some of these knives over the years. The knives here, they go back, some of these knives go back 30 years at least on the bench here, and I also was having a conversation with Dan at Okeechobee Bushcraft, and in one of the comment sections of one of his videos, and I mentioned a couple folding knives that I like, and he asked me if I ever done a review on them, and I never have, so I thought I'd cover that too. I'll also put a link in the description for Dan's channel as well, and I also did a fixed blade knife video a while back. I'll throw a link in the description for that one as well, but these are some of my most used and favorite folding knives, and most of my folding knives go back. Most of them are for work, and then the other ones are for hunting, hiking, field dressing animals, that kind of stuff. And this actually is my first knife that took serious use for work, and it's a Charade scrimshaw, and back when charades were made in the United States, and this knife seen a lot of use when I was in my teens and early 20s, and I always carried these knives in a leather pouch of some variety. In fact, this is the one for this one right here, and these leather pouches are nice. I actually prefer the leather pouches compared to these nylon ones that you kind of get today. I try to shy away from these guys. But this was my first lock blade. And when you get into lock blades, you get into different sizes. This is sort of I guess the Stockman size, I would call it. And the next size up is going to be something like this, and this is another Charade scrimshaw. I actually have several different Charade scrimshaws. Most of those are more like collector's items, but this one here actually saw use and field dressed a couple of deer when I was younger. But these size knives were extremely popular back when I was growing up. Pretty much anybody that hunted in the woods carried some type of fixed or lock blade like this here, and this is actually a 110 buck. It's one of probably the most popular large lockbacks that there is. And as a general rule, I have multiples of knives that I like, and this is another 110 here, except this is sort of the more modern nylon one. If I find a knife that I like for a specific task, I will have multiples of those knives, and that's, or at least the same style, and that's what these are. Most of these knives here are all high quality. I don't really care for cheap, junky knives. I just seen too many of them fail or break. If you want to like have a pocket knife to like use out in the garden or something that's going to get full of dirt or whatever, that's okay for a cheap knife. But if you're going to have any serious use, you probably want to spend just a little bit more money on it. Another lock, I had a lot of good experiences with the old Gerbers, a lot of the stuff that was made in the United States back in the day. But this particular knife here is a Chameleon. They don't make it anymore. But I carried this in a belt pouch at the time, and I particularly like this one because it had this finger hole, so I could grab it, pull it out, stick it back into that belt pouch, and that's I had several of these over the years too. This is one of the knives that's seen a lot of work back in the day, and this is another Gerber folding knife. This is a 600. I'm not sure if they make these anymore either, but I carried this one in sort of my original hiking pack when I got into hiking back in my teens and 20s because it was so light. And these knives are actually really good. Them old Gerber knives, I don't know what kind of steel that they used in them, but the steel, you could sharpen them. They kept an edge, and they were just lightweight knives. Multi-tools. I think multi-tools are basically knives, so I'm kind of included them in this video too. I have multiple Gerbers. This is, I believe, a 400 size, and this one's like a 600 size multiplier. And I have several of these in different locations and toolboxes and stuff. Always use the Gerbers because I like this sliding mechanism. I don't have anything against Leatherman, and I have one Leatherman here. This Leatherman I purchased specifically for a specific pack where I wanted to have a pliers in, so I kind of went with this guy right here. Again, I don't like cheap multi-tools. I know there's a ton of cheap multi-tools out there, but I've never broke a Gerber, and I've never had any problems with this Leatherman either. Those are the only two, I guess, brands that I would consider. And the differences, a lot of these folding knives, like this Gerber right here, this is actually a made in Taiwan Gerber, but I've had this one for well over 15 years. This one's called a Hershey Air Ranger, and I got 3 of them here because the quality on these knives deteriorated as time went on, and this was sort of like the first run that they came out with these, and I really liked this knife because it had the thumb, thumb ramp on the back here, and this one was really, really good for my work use. And like I said, I have multiples of this knife because if I find a knife I like, I'll typically buy multiples. But as time went on, you know, this one was the first run. This one was probably about 10 years into it. It just doesn't have the same feel to it as the other one, and I don't think it's quite the same quality. It's still good, but it's not as good as what this first one was. And then this was sort of the last iteration of that. And this one feels much lighter and chintzier and stuff than the first two. So this is one of those things that I don't think it's improved over time. This is another knife right here. This is one of my favorite food prep knives. If I know we're going camping or something, and I usually get elected to be the camp cook, I will throw this knife in my pack because this guy here, this is a case trapper. A case trapper, I think, absolutely excels at food prep. So if you're the camp cook, one of these is just excellent for cutting up whatever you're going to need for food prep. And like I said, it's got a good blade on it, and it's got a good corrosion resistance. It's just, like I said, one of my favorite food prep knives. And the other knives that, these I will typically carry on my day off. I don't use Swiss Army knives for my work, but I love them at home, whether I'm going fishing or, you know, working outside. I need just little things cut, string, twine, whatever. I like these kind of the utilitarian things on these. I've tightened a lot of screws and stuff with Swiss Army knives over the years, and this one here is sort of the military one, and it's got a partially serrated edge on there, and I'm going to get to that in a second. And another thing that probably the 2 things that I like the most on these knives, if I can show you here, is the saw blades. I like the saw blades on Swiss Army knives for cutting small little branches and stuff when I'm out in the woods and doing stuff. And then the other thing that I love on Swiss Army knives is the scissors. The scissors have come in handy so much over the years for anything from cutting fishing line to cutting small plastic things, for trimming things. You got to rip a fingernail when you're working. I like the scissors on there. Those are some of my favorite tools on the Swiss Army knives. Serrated blades get a lot of shit, and I don't know why. I actually like a serrated blade, especially on a work knife, because I cut a lot of string, a lot of twine, a lot of plastic banding, and nothing works better than one of these serrated blades. And I can actually sharpen them, and it gets into sharpening a little bit. A lot of people will complain that they can't sharpen those, but if you have a diamond rod like this that's got a taper on it, and these are some of my favorite sharpening instruments right here, that will get in there and it will put an edge back on those serrations. Like I said, I had a lot of people complain, oh, you can't sharpen them, but yeah, you can. And again, my sharpening tools are pretty much like my knives. If I find something I like, I'll have multiple ones of them. And these little diamond rods right here, they have a flat edge, they have a round edge, they have that tapered edge, and they also have a groove in for sharpening fish hooks. And they're basically no bigger than a large ink pen. So these are really nice to throw in packs, throw in kits, whatever, so you have some ability to sharpen your tools out in the field. And my other sharpening tools, kind of the old school ones, I have several of these stones that were passed down to me that I still use of different coarseness levels. These are just basic whetstones. And the old timers would use crocks to hone knives. So if I want to just quick hone a knife, and that's kind of why you can see this dark edge on here, because this crock has honed a lot of knives over the years. A crock, bottom of a coffee cup, bottom of a flower pot, the edge of a car window, they will all hone an edge back onto a knife. And then I've got a strop. I got one side that doesn't have compound on and one that does have compound on. And I like these particular diamond stones. There's a coarse and a fine edge, so if something's really tore up or I got a chip in a blade, I'll use something like this to sharpen it. And I've got probably 6 of these, the same thing. I like these, so I have multiple variations of them. And then actual steel, like what you see, you know, in kitchen knife blocks and stuff. I like a steel. When I'm done using a knife, I'll quick run it over steel to realign the edge. And one of these hangs pretty much any place where I have knives or any of my gear. I'll have a steel hanging there so I can touch up my blades as I go along. And this here is my heavy use knife. This is a 0 tolerance. I bought this. It's sort of the same company as Kershaw, and I bought this 0 tolerance. It cost a little bit more money than the Kershaws that I normally carry because I needed sort of a hard use knife or something, and I've been hard using this for quite some time already. And well, it's a good knife. It's very, very heavy, and for the extra money that I spent on this particular 0 tolerance knife, I think the Kershaws are probably just as good as what I got. And this is actually my favorite Kershaw here. These are blurs, and these are my other Kershaws that kind of were my favorite for a long time until I got into the blurs. These are actually called barrages. They got that real fine point, spear point on there, which I like. These are particularly good for digging out slivers. You know, I work around a lot of wood and stuff, so I get slivers and whatnot, but those sharp spear points work good for digging out slivers, and these were actually made in the USA Kershaws at the time, and very thin, so they slide in a pocket very easy. But these blurs here, there's something just about these guys that I like, and 2 of these have been back to Kershaw, and they've been repaired. One, the blade got burnt because I was stripping live wire. I know I'm not supposed to do that, but I was stripping live wire with it, and I kind of torched the blade a little bit, and they replaced it. And the other one I broke the tip off of, and they replaced them, no questions asked. And I just had to send them back, so it pretty much just cost me the postage. But these Tonto blade serrated edge blurs were just my favorites. I mean, I got the serrations on there to cut cord and banding. I got that sharp point if I got to dig out a sliver or something. And these actually hold an edge really, really well. Another thing with Kershaw's warranty, I actually contacted Kershaw, and they actually sent me like rebuild kits for these assisted openings at no charge to me. I just requested a couple, and they just sent me a couple, so I actually have the ability to rebuild these knives if I want to because of Kershaw's generosity. And another thing that I'll use these Kershaw blurs for, if I'm lifting boxes, we have sort of a stocking area at work where I have to pull boxes in and out, and a lot of that stuff is at the very edge of my reaching ability. So a lot of times I will actually take the blade of this, kind of poke it into the bottom of the box and use it to pry a box forward. And I've been literally doing that with these knives for years, and they're still holding up. I know that isn't really the use of these knives, but that is another reason why I like these, and that's why I have several of these, because these find their way into all my packs, all my jeans, all my work shorts, whatever I got. 90% of the time, you're going to find one of these Kershaw blurs in those packs, and I just maintain them with pretty much the stuff that's here, you know, either a diamond stone like this or the strop or the edge of the crock or the whetstone. And that's basically the core here of my my folding knives. I have some folding knives that are sentimental, that don't get much use anymore. And like I said, I have got a few of these Kershaw or Charade Scrimshaws that I like, but they're more for just collector purposes. But the old Charade carbon steel was actually really good, and the steel on the buck knives is good. The steel on these Kershaws is excellent. Swiss Army knives, they're very slicey. They got that sort of, I guess, chrome coating on them. They cut really good, and any old Gerber is excellent steel. The newer stuff, not so much, kind of like these down over here, but the older you get with any Kershaw or any Gerber knives and Gerber multipliers, I find to be much, much better. But anyway, just a quick video here talking about knives and some of the stuff that I have. But anyway, this is Modern Refugee. I appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you got a little information and a little entertainment out of this video here. I'm just talking about some of the knives that I've used over the years and will continue to use. You guys take care.